Hello and welcome to Box, a Formula One podcast. I'm in first.
I'm first.
Shannon Hay-
I'm Meryl.
No, I'm first. I'm Sam.
No, I'm first.
I think I went first, guys. I'm Shannon.
Too late now.
Okay, for real this time, I'm the flappy thing at the back of the car, Shannon Hayes.
I'm Sausage Curbs, Sam Cockcroft.
And I'm, for what? Meryl Huseman.
This is the episode about overtaking and, the strategies therein to try to get past your opponents. But before we get into that, we've got, I guess, some tiny bits of news from the week and kind of an opinion piece on Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
Up first.
Yeah, let's get into Lewis.
We mostly want to discuss his Instagram activity because he was popping off this week on Insta.
There's so much to unpack.
And he's just such a weird dude.
Yeah.
There's a lot to unpack here.
Let's be psychologists for like 2 minutes.
Right. So what spurred this discussion on? He made one post this week, and I think the caption was really everything.
It was the one of, I think it was the one of him at the beach looking into the horizon. And I don't think I'm going to read the whole caption because it's pretty lengthy. But it was about his emotional and physical well-being and, like, just the way he phrased everything. It was, like, a lot.
I can read the last paragraph of it. The first part is, I don't know, maybe we should just read the whole thing.
Yeah, let's just read it.
Okay. Surfing is one of my favorite sports outside of racing.
Can you try to do a Lewis impression while you do it?
Am I supposed to read it in a British accent?
Yeah, could you please, just like his soft British accent, could you please try your best?
I can't.
Really immerse me, please.
I think I can only go like full bad British accent, or I could do
like a Cockney
no
accent. Can you do Cockney?
No.
Surfing's one of my favourite sports.
I think somebody else should give it a try.
Shannon, you should do it in your Cockney accent. Please. Please.
Yeah, so that, let me immerse you with with Lewis's, like, soft British voice. Oi, surfing's one of my favourite sports, outside of racing, that is. I love sitting outside beyond the waves, feeling the ocean around me, don't I? It makes me appreciate the power that's around us every day. Emotionally and physically, this has been a challenging break, but the opportunity to get in the waves has been cleared my mind and opened me up to the beauty around us. A lot of that was nonsense.
It sounds borderline Australian.
Yeah, welcome to the pod, special guest Danny Rich. I hope to one day surf every day, catching that perfect wave. And riding it into the sunset. This is me speaking it into existence. If you have a dream, don't let anybody tell you you can't achieve it. Manifest those dreams by putting your all into it and never giving up. See, I wanted to give a little bit of real.
That was so good.
Oh, wow.
That really just, like, emphasized what Lewis was going for, I think, Shannon. You really...
Yeah, I think so, too. I think I should really get him on the horn, because, like, I'd love to speak to the man.
His, like, power stance, too, is kind of funny. Like, It looks like one of those things that they would make you do where you, like, do your, like, superhero pose to, like, build up confidence before something or whatever. All he's missing is the hands on his hips.
He looks like he's gonna fight the ocean.
Yeah.
But also the fact that he was saying, like, I hope to one day surf every day, catching the perfect wave and riding it into the sunset. Like, what is that?
It's pure poetry, is what it is. Meryl, don't you dare try to say this is anything but profound.
Like, he totally could have done that this year. If he hadn't signed his contract, he could be doing this. Like,
yeah, that's true. Lewis, you could just surf every day. You could retire yesterday. Like,
yeah, you played yourself, Lewis.
Just saying. I really like this one that has fan art of Tom Brady from when he won the Super Bowl a few weeks ago.
I was gonna say that. I'm really not
Yeah.
welcome to #7, or was that number 7? No. Fuck Tom Brady. I'm sorry.
I love it. I love it so much. I love all of his, like, little kind of vloggy things that he does whenever he's, like, out hiking or, like, snowboarding or something. And he's like, hey, guys, I'm in the middle of a hike. I'm about 2 kilometers in. Just keep putting your mind and, you know, doing your dreams and, like... It's like, okay, Lewis, you have to chill.
Yeah, there's that also the one where he was, like, I don't know, there was, like, those 2 weeks where he was skiing. And one of the captions of one of those pictures is, every morning I hike to the top of this mountain and I take some time to set my goals and intentions for the day. Like, we don't need to know that. Write that in your diary. That's great and everything.
Every morning he hikes up there. Every morning he hikes up there just to plan his day out.
This one says feeling so focused. I'm so driven to turn my body into a machine.
He wants to be Cyborg from Teen Titans. He's just gonna slowly start replacing his limbs with machine body parts.
Yeah, it's so, like, I don't get the vibe. I don't understand what he's going for. I don't know.
I love the vibe. I love it. It's, oh my god, look at his little selfies where he does the above angle and he's just like he's looking really demure and like he's got his eyes all big and he's like,
this one's kind of blurry. Get a better camera though, Lewis.
Yeah, true. Also, just the ones where he's like looking out into the desert and like contemplating life.
There's also one of him like on a Zoom call with Roscoe next to him. And it's obviously taken from above. Like, who did you get to take this picture of you?
Oh my god. Well, speaking of the people in Lewis's life, I did also want to talk about his dating history because I did not know he was so seasoned in the world of dating. You know, he's been on and off with Nicole Scherzinger, which I knew that. But I didn't know he also dated Rihanna and Nicki Minaj, and Nicki Minaj is really the one that I'm like, where do those vibes fit together, you know? Like,
no. Wait, when? How long? When? What?
I don't know. Let me pull up a picture of them for you guys because he had like, he has like frosty tips in the photo, so that's at least how old it is. He's got like frosty tips going on.
Like, was it like late 2000s?
I mean, it was late 2000s when he was with Nicole Scherzinger. He looks so young.
I cannot believe.
Do you think that Lewis got a single word in during his relationship with Nicki Minaj? You know, I don't think so.
I don't.
Okay, it's not fully frosty tips.
This one says current.
Are they currently dating?
But it says...
I doubt it.
This was published last January, but it says currently Lewis Hamilton is dating American rapper-singer Nicki Minaj.
There's no way.
But it's a pretty impressive
That's
list.
a pretty dated photo of Lewis.
Yeah. Who else? Do I know anyone else?
He dated Winnie Harlow for a little bit.
That's so weird.
Rita Ora.
Wait, he dated Rita Ora?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my.
He just...
Sophia Richie? Wait, this can't...
Yeah.
That's
wow.
insane.
Yeah, wait, Nicki Minaj is like married right now, isn't she?
Yeah, didn't she have a baby at some point recently?
Yeah, so they're not like currently dating. At what point were they dating? Yeah, she's currently married.
This says 2020, late 2019, early 2020.
I can't imagine him wearing this fit with this hairstyle. For full context, he's in like one of those full denim fits that you saw on Justin Timberlake like in 2002 on the runway with Britney Spears, and like the same like kind of vibe of the hairstyle of the frosty tips. He didn't go for full frosty tips. That was my bad on the misreporting. But it looks like frosty tips.
Yeah, it does a bit, actually.
Okay, this one quote. Lewis was pictured climbing into a cab with a handful of hotties after a wild night out in London during Fashion Week.
Ew.
A handful of hotties. Ugh.
I mean, this was the Sun, so...
Wait, there's a photo.
Okay, of course.
There's a photo of him and Winnie Harlow and Nicki Minaj.
Oh my god.
All of them together. And they all look very comfortable
Wow.
together, so I don't know. This is so strange. How had I never heard of this? Oh my.
His fits are really something. What is he doing? Lewis. He's got a white shirt on, buttoned all the way up to the neck, and then he's got a vest on that's black and white, vertical stripes, with a random chain brooch hanging off of one side, then full circular, think Mattia Bonotto glasses, and then a white fedora with a black stripe around it. That's the fit. So, just consider that with your mind's eye for a minute. And then he's standing next to Nicki Minaj with full purple hair and a purple bedazzled suit thing on. So,
I found pictures of him with this model from September of 2020, so that's most recent. Florence Mueller. Daily Mail says she looks like Nicole Scherzinger, which I don't know. I don't really see the resemblance. They're basically just brunettes and they're models. So, but his fit in this is he's wearing green tie-dye shorts, sweatshorts, and purple pink tie-dyed sweatshirt with a pink hat.
Why is he like this? Why?
All I can think of is that interview of him and Max. I can't remember where, but him just being to Max, trying to stop it from transmitting through the microphone, but him being there's so many hot babes here, and then he's to Max, oh, but you have a girlfriend, right?
Oh my god.
Who is Lewis? Who is
But
he?
he's also at the same time he's so tender. He's such a thirst trappy kind of guy.
Yeah.
What is this? Oh my god. I know. I really flip flop because I kind of love Lewis because he's so funny, unintentionally. So, and then also he's a vegan and I like that. Yeah. And he stands up for good causes. He was very vocal about BLM, all of that good stuff. But at the same time, he can be such a whiny little bitch about his gloves, his tires.
I don't know. Also, I don't know if you guys saw his actual story, but he's into recording now. He's recording some music or something.
I saw that.
Oh my god. I need to... What genre? Is it? I hope it's a spoken word poetry album from the mind of Lewis Hamilton.
He just reads off all of his Instagram captions.
Yeah. He's I'm stuck in a car going round and round, but I just want to be on the waves and hear the ocean sound.
You know those TikToks where somebody will just read motivational quotes into their camera for I feel like that would be.
That's fully his account.
Oh my god. I really hope so. I hope he just starts posting poetry onto Spotify.
Yeah. I would listen to that, honestly. I feel like he has a good voice for it.
That's true. He does have a good voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think maybe this is just me. I get annoyed with just constant positivity because I'm there's no way. And he posted this was a while ago, but he just said, "Hello world, woke up today feeling super grateful and blessed for another day. Hoping you started your week with positivity."
Yeah, he can
it's just a lot.
Be a little bit too much where it's not everything has to have a good spin.
Yeah, he's a bit much. I mean, he climbs a mountain every morning.
Yeah. Not everyone can do that, Lewis. Also, okay, wait, this is a little bit, but did you guys see Mercedes posted that picture of a sneak peek of the new car?
No.
Because I didn't understand what was going on there, but it's just a mock-up kind of thing. It's drawn or animated. It's not an actual car. But I don't know if this is how the livery is gonna turn out or not.
Oh, yeah, wait, yeah, I did see that.
I just got very confused.
I mean, it's certainly not gonna be the final final draft of it, I guess. But it's just, it always looks kind of the same for them. I just don't care about Mercedes.
Ooh,
livery.
did you guys see that video that Williams posted, though, when it's like the pit crew and you can see like the front wing of the car like come in and then it just like goes black?
Ooh, no.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, it's
Did
like they're
look
like
cool?
the pit crew's like waiting for the car to come in, and then just as like you can see the like front of the car, it says like 5 days to go, and it looks like it could be like black or darker.
Oh.
That's sick. Ooh.
Ooh, this week is gonna be so good for car reveals. There's literally like 4 this week.
I'm so
and it's
excited.
all the fun ones.
I'm hype.
Yeah.
It's gonna be so good. God, I want to know what Williams has going on.
Yeah, me too.
Speaking of Williams, also, George Russell posted today his little Sunday drive, and I just want to talk about it because it looks like he's wearing lip gloss in it, I know my boy loves an Insta filter.
He just has nice lips.
They're pretty glossy. Maybe he just finished drinking some water.
He's also kind of pouting. He's like,
Yeah. He's really going for the Kylie Jenner look of, like, the fish lips. He's British, though, so he doesn't have a lot to work with. That's the issue, is being British. He's not got a lot of lip content to push out there.
I do like the glasses, though. They do look good.
He's got really nice sunglasses in most of his pictures.
Yeah. I mean, are we are we done on the Lewis front? I feel like we
Yeah.
covered.
Why don't we talk about the real news of the week?
I mean, I guess the only real news was the new liveries, Red Bull and Alfa Romeo.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys watched the Alfa Romeo one with the ballet at the beginning and then the reveal. It was a lot.
I'm just mad. Like, McLaren was the only team that, like, thought about America, which, Zach Brown, thank you very much for that. Because all of the other ones I would, like, wake up and it would, like, happen at, like, 3 in the morning, and I was like, I don't care anymore. Sorry.
I'll give you a quick overview of what happened at the Alfa Romeo one then. I, like, joined late, but I, like, skipped back. And they opened it with, like, a big ballet, like, recital type thing where one lady was dressed in a red dress and the other in a white dress. And they were just, like, circling and doing, like, ballet stuff. And there was 2 guys on pianos, like, on this side. And it was this whole thing. It was beautiful, but, like, just a lot to watch at, like, 10 a.m. in the morning.
I feel like that's the kind of vibe that we need, though. Like,
yeah, it was nice. And then they did the car reveal, and then Kimi was there, Antonio was there, and I always forget Kubica was there because he's their reserve driver, I guess, and he's also Polish, which is where they held the reveal. Was it Poland? No.
Poland is a weird venue spot.
Yeah.
Let me just double check before I continue. Yeah, it was in Poland. Okay, I was right. It was in Poland.
And I guess Kubica was just there, and he was like, yeah, what?
Oh, it's because Orlen. It's because their main sponsor, Orlen, is is from Poland, and Kubica, or Kubica. So Orlen is their main sponsor, and that's a Polish sponsor, and then I guess because Kubica is their reserve driver, they just decided to do it there. But it was really funny because they had the, obviously, like, driver interviews, and Kimi the whole time was just standing there, like, looking so upset and, like, bored.
Classic Kimi, What else did we expect?
Yeah. But I guess the main thing with their car is that they flip the colors. That's it.
It's better than most teams have done. At least it's a change.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know why in my head Kubica is so much older than he is. Like, I think Kimi is definitely older than him.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But he doesn't seem like it.
And then there was also the Red Bull reveal, which was not a reveal. That it's the same car.
Like, we thought McLaren was the same car. Like, Red Bull was really the same car.
Red Bull is actually the same car.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, nothing to report there. Just.
Nope. And then the last thing that happened this week was the Ferrari team launch, and I don't know, I was very underwhelmed. They started it off, it was like a James Bond type movie type thing, where it was like suspense, and they had like drone shots and shit of the...
Oh, yeah. The color grading really made it look like
an action movie. The first scene was like Benotto walking in, and his voice cracks, and he's like, ugh!
Do you know what we immediately noticed when we watched it? Was his glasses aren't round anymore. He got new glasses, and they're rectangular.
Oh, no.
Go back and rewatch it. Yep, he got rid of the round glasses. Isn't that really upsetting?
Wait,
I know.
That's crazy. I did not.
The iconic Bonotto glasses are gone.
Wait, but they're still black rimmed though.
They've got the big black frame. It's just they're rectangular now.
Oh, that's crazy.
Isn't that upsetting? That was the only takeaway I had from the team launch. Right?
No way.
No.
Right?
That's not right. It's not right.
Clown move.
That's not okay.
The only thing we liked about Benotto was the round glasses and the hairdo together, and now he's lost one of those. So what are we even here for now?
Nothing.
Just had enough of people talking about it, I guess. I don't know. Did you guys watch the video of Carlos and Charles reading a note from Benotto in Italian and answering questions?
Yeah, that was the same.
Yeah.
Was that not the same video?
I don't know. I see everything in different places.
I was surprised at how good Carlos speaks Italian.
He speaks it better than Charles does.
Yeah.
It's so funny. It's so funny because, I don't know, listening to Carlos speak in English in that video right next to Charles made me be like, wow, Carlos is really good at English. He's so well spoken. Because then you hard cut to Charles and he's like, the cars is good. And then they'll cut to Carlos and he's like, just fluently being like, I'm very excited for the season. I think this will be very exciting for the whole team.
Yeah. Ugh, I'm still, my heart still hurts for Carlos though, because I just know that this season he's gonna age 10 years.
Yeah. It's gonna be hard for
truly.
him.
But we'll see.
It's sad. It'll be exciting at least to see him and Leclerc up against each other. That's a fun pairing to see.
Mm-hmm.
I think this year is going to be really exciting, but I think there's also going to be a lot of drama.
Yeah. I think a lot of the driver pairings at least this season are really interesting ones.
Yeah.
Specifically, I'm thinking of Vettel and Stroll. I just think that's an interesting pairing, and I want to see it. I want to see it on the grid.
Yeah. Well, their team pictures so far up on the Insta have been so cute. Honestly, I think we're gonna get to see a side of Stroll.
Looks like a dad and his son.
Yeah, I think we're gonna see a side of Stroll that we haven't actually seen before.
Yeah. Well, because also Vettel is so nice and respectful, and maybe he can teach some of that and pass it on to Stroll.
Yeah, I hope so.
I don't think I think Stroll sucks way less than all of us think he does.
I think so too.
Yeah, I agree.
think so too.
I don't know. I don't think he's a bad person. It's just that everybody's man, his dad's money ruined it for everybody.
Yeah.
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 It's true. It's not his fault he's rich, I guess. But,
Yeah.
He is going to get hated on for it, I guess. So.
Definitely. Okay, well, let's get into the meat of the episode because I feel like that's all that happened this week.
Yeah. So, this week's episode is all about overtaking. Very fun, very cool.
Yeah, let's kick it off. So I looked in a little bit more about just general racing line strategy, which racing line, as you know, is the fastest line around the track. And some of the focus was just on going around the corners. So you, instead of taking kind of the path of the corner, you want to come from the outside, hit the apex, and then go back out on the outside again to get the largest radius, because that's where you can go the fastest. But what was interesting is that it's not just it's not just about how fast you can take the corner, but it's how fast you can go on the overall track. So it's taking the apex exactly where the like mathematical geometric apex is not necessarily the fastest for the entire track.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought this was a very helpful explanation, because they were talking about like I feel like you'd hear drivers say like late apex, like early apex, and you're like, I don't know what the fuck you're saying.
Yeah.
So this explained it as that, so if you take a late apex, if you, so you can kind of straighten out faster, so you can maximize the straight afterwards, because you want to be accelerating that whole time. Whereas if you take the normal apex, you're still kind of like curving around until farther, so you lose a portion of the straight where you can be accelerating to the same extent.
Yeah.
But say that one corner is followed by another series of turns, then you might take an early apex so you can maximize your acceleration beforehand going into the turn. So you get a longer portion going straight, take an early apex, cut across, and then you can cut easily into the next corner. And then on the final turn of that sequence, you'll take a late apex so you can straighten out and get the straight there.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Nice.
I was definitely like good to hear an explanation, because I feel like it can get so confusing.
Yeah.
And then they also, I don't know, have you guys heard the term karting line before?
No.
I have not.
So I had also not heard of this, but it refers to the like a racing line, but in a kart, which has a little bit more like slipperiness to it. They slide a little bit more. That's like a wider, more slippery, and like it's good for when your tires are old or if you're in the wet. So you'll kind of not really hit the apex at all, but just go a lot wider so you have better grip. And that's good for a couple of reasons, because like on a dry track, there's a lot of rubber on the racing line, because that's where all the cars are going, which means that when like the rubber's like filled into the gravel, so when you have water, it's just all like sloshing around, whereas you'll get a little bit better grip on the places where there's less rubber. So you'll want to stay off of the racing line a little bit more when you're in the wet, especially like on a corner, to get better grip. It was honestly just, there's so many things that they think about while driving that the more I learn about it, the more I'm like, mad respect for you guys and thinking about all of this stuff as you drive around a track. So this was saying also that like racing lines vary depending on the track, based on like runoff, if you're like if like you would go into gravel, or into like if you're in Monaco and it's just barriers and you're just gonna hit a wall, or just like bumps, and then also curves, which we'll talk a little bit more about later. And I think one of the interesting things that they said that is you could take like the same chicane from one track and put it in another track, and it would be completely different. The drivers would approach it in a completely different way, because it's not just about those series of turns, but the track as a whole, and like all of the other factors aside from like this is where you're supposed to drive.
Yeah.
That's really cool, actually, to consider it as like, because like whenever I've thought about like racing line before, I'm always just thinking about it as like, oh, you have to like take the optimal path that's going to set you up for the next couple turns.
Yeah.
And then like in my head, I'm like, and that cancels out once there's a straight again. But to like consider the fact that like, well, they want a late apex so that once they get into the straight, they can accelerate. So that's going to affect literally every single turn up until that point too, if they have like a chicane or something like that. That's really interesting.
Yeah, because it's like it's not just about that one portion of the track. Like it really is about how does that affect the next thing, and then how does that next thing affect the thing after that, and all the way around. Like everything is just leading into the next thing. But I guess this is where it becomes a little bit more interesting in terms of overtaking. Is you have your racing line, and then on a lot of corners you also have like an outside line or an inside line, where it's the person in front of you is obviously going to take the good racing line. So if you want to get ahead of them, you have to cut inside or you have to cut outside to get around them. And they published a video, I think on F1, of Lando Norris overtaking Pierre Gasly in 2019 Bahrain, and it is pretty impressive. And they also outline where the optimal path is to show how he gets around. And I thought it was like a really good like explanation just of like how, like, what they think about, and also, I guess, how you get around a person when you're not necessarily taking the most optimal path. But
yeah. Did he go on outside or inside, or like what did he ultimately do? Did he kind of force Gasly off the racing line?
yeah, so he took the outside, and I guess just was able to cut ahead enough that when he took the outside and I guess beat Gasly to the other side where they were like moving, like the other curb, and then was like kind of, I guess, like beat him back on the racing line is the way I would explain it.
Okay.
But definitely a good video that's like 30 seconds of understanding, I guess, how to overtake outside of, like, off of the racing line. So now we can talk about curbs, which for some reason in the F1 world are not spelled C-U-R-B-S, but K-E-R-B-S.
What?
Yeah, is that a British thing?
I don't know if it's a British thing. I think it, like, is a Formula One thing. Like, when I Googled curbs with a K, the first thing that came up was, like, curbs F1.
Oh, okay then. Well,
Interesting.
In my head, they're pronounced differently, too. Which it's not. They're not. It's the same word.
curbs versus cabs.
Cubs.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're mostly important for penalties, which Meryl is going to talk about a little later. But they are also important because they can cause damage to the car and the tires, especially. But they have lots of benefits, main one being safety in terms of just slowing down cars at faster corners, and then also just kind of ensuring that drivers stay within track limits, which is the penalty aspect of it. But they're also good because if you use them properly, they help. They can help drivers gain speed. Basically, like giving them a little bit more space than just the track limits, to get a bigger radius and just go faster and like expand the racing line in that sense. And also just like as a visual cue as to like where you should be braking, like where you should take your apex and like that kind of stuff. But I think most people are familiar with sausage curbs, the big ones.
Not me.
Yeah, I've never heard of that term before, but
You
I
guys
love
haven't
it.
heard sausage curbs?
No.
Cool.
No.
This article says they're the most well-known curb in F1.
Well,
So
not to me,
Well,
not
my
to
bad.
us.
I'm so sorry.
yeah, they are mostly just like really fat curbs essentially that limit drivers from exceeding track limits, and they're mostly just like keeping them within the track. But they've faced a lot of criticism and controversy because they can be dangerous, and I didn't know this. But basically, I mean, like, I it's not surprising that something sticking out of the ground would be dangerous when you're driving 200 miles per hour or however fast. Like, yeah, it's not surprising at all. But there's this one video that I missed because it was 2019 F3, which I don't typically follow F3, but Alex Peroni, an F3 driver, hit the curb, the sausage curb in Monza, and it essentially just sent his car straight in the air, and he spun around a couple times, and finally he landed face up, but landed on top of the barrier.
Oh.
Like, he was up and then came down on top of the barrier.
Jesus.
So, yeah, they've been problematic, though. The FIA has not really said anything about, I don't know, if they're going to stick around or what the deal is with them, but...
Well, I guess that kind of goes into track limits, too, because, I mean, I'll talk about that later, but that's crazy. Because, like, they've tried to... I think what I read is that they have tried to come up with, like, different solutions for that to make it as safe as possible, but, like, every solution that they've come up with so far has had, like, major drawbacks or, like, major, I don't know, the drivers never like it.
I think what's hard is that to have something that deters drivers, like, from, like, going past that, it's gonna need to be raised in some sort. Yeah, I would think. Yeah, like, it has to provide some disruption to the driver, but the problem is that they want to push it to the absolute limit. Yeah, and then stuff like that happens.
Well, that's also kind of why they started implementing harsher penalties.
Yeah. But yeah, like the other curbs are mostly just like the like ribbed type of curbs, which is like on like a normal road where you have the like you know, on the highway bumps. You have the like rumble things and stuff like that. Which is, I mean, that's first of all insane imagining like the vibrations that you feel driving so fast over that, but it's just like, I guess, and like why also it's so damaging to the tires, and why, you know, when their tires are gone, as they like to say, they, you know, the engineers would tell them to stay off the curbs a little bit more to help preserve the tires a little bit better.
I have a question. Sorry to go back to sausage curbs real quick, but I don't know if you've ever seen that video of it was called like the Singapore Sling or whatever, and it was that one really tricky chicane that was in the middle of the Singapore track, and it was like a very tight one, and the curbs like were raised around it. And so, like, drivers obviously were not going to, like, slow down to, like, navigate it. So they would oftentimes just, like, fucking floor it, like, through the middle of it. And there's, like, so many videos of them, like, hitting the curbs and, like, spinning out. Or, like, I don't think anyone got, like, a full flip off of one. But they would get, like, air. They would go into the air and, like, come down. And, like, eventually the Singapore track was like, okay, we'll get rid of this because it's not safe.
That's what I've done that before too. I think like a speed bump. Sometimes when you take a speed bump so slowly, it's just like you feel it too much. So I started going faster over speed bumps because you just like essentially the same thing. Yeah,
lift off.
But I took a speed bump. I was driving behind a couple of friends in a neighborhood, and they took the speed bump pretty slowly, and then I went over it faster, and it was a bad idea. Like, in that case, it was not a good idea. And as soon as we parked in our friend's driveway, they were like, girl, you took that speed bump way too fast.
Just pretending that you were in an F1 car.
My little anecdote to the Singapore Sling.
Yeah,
I drive like I'm an F1 driver sometimes.
You try to overtake people?
I take the corner into my cul-de-sac a little hard sometimes. You just like floor it.
Take it at the apex.
Like, yeah.
Do you apex early or late on that one?
Usually early. It's like a little too early for a you know, residential normal street, because if somebody else were like, I have to make sure nobody else is coming down the street because I cut into the other lane. I'm pretty sure everybody in my family does this though. So.
Should I go into track limits then? Should I go into track limits and penalties then? Because that kind of links nicely.
Yeah.
So when I was searching like track limits and penalties, like all the articles were like dissing the FIA and Formula One for like all the new rules and regulations, and even like interviews with drivers where they were like, yeah, this is all bullshit, like racing is supposed to be fun, like if there's no challenge or no healthy competition, if everyone's just gonna get penalized for being a little bit reckless, like what's even the fun? That was like
a little bit reckless.
Cute Grosjean.
It's very reckless.
I'll go into track limits a little bit, but it's pretty, like, I feel like we all know what track limits are. It's just, like, the boundary where the track ends and the runoff starts. Usually it's a white line that goes around the whole track. And what used to, in, like, major turns and stuff, what they used to have would be grass and gravel to prevent people from exceeding track limits, because then obviously you'd get stuck in the gravel grass and then not be able to carry on. But the FIA has started to change that because it's caused like major accidents and it's pretty dangerous. Also, if they do end up in the gravel and then take gravel with them onto the track, it usually ends up in a yellow flag because there's like major cleanup that has to happen. So instead of gravel traps, it's mostly like paved runoff areas now. But then with paved runoff areas, drivers are like, oh, that's like space to use.
There's no consequences.
Yeah, right, exactly. And I also found this, I didn't know this, but in IndyCar, there's no track limits. So you can literally take the the turn as wide as you want. And I saw a clip, and they literally like go all the way off the track and use the turns. It was like at the Circuit of Americas.
What's the point of a track then if you have no limits?
I don't know. Exactly, but it's because it's like you were explaining with the when you were saying like where to use the apex. It's because like if you have a turn, and you can like that having the apex at a certain point and like taking it as wide as you can increases like your lap or decreases your lap time. Then they're gonna try and do that, obviously. Instead of doing that, that's why they kind of have started implementing more stricter penalties now. And the way that they do that is there's sensors in the track so that they know when the cars have gone off. There's cameras, or it's literally just people rewatching footage and like going off of what they think deserves a penalty or not. So like a lot of the time the penalties are just based off of like if the person watching is like, oh, that's a questionable turn, that deserves a penalty.
I mean, that's how it is in most sports. If they take a long ass break and officials will like review the footage of whatever. But like the camera angles that they get are insane. Like they have so many different things. When there's like a close call in football, they review it from every angle. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And
that's something that everyone is discussing online, is like how like there's people that get penalties for stuff that other people don't get penalties for, and like there's always a bias, you know. I feel like that's hard to control.
The sensor thing is really cool.
Yeah, but it's not on all tracks. I think it's like on a few tracks that they have that. But also, there's error in that too, because like, that's also hard to control, you know? Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I thought I'd go into the penalties, and there's 4 types of penalties. The first one's the 5-second penalty, which is like pretty flexible. They can add that onto their like final time, or they can just do the 5-second pit. And the one that the example there that I put was Kimi in Mugello, where his 4-watt moment. But I feel like the 5-second penalties are the most used, and they're usually for like small offenses like exceeding track limits and that kind of stuff. And then there's the drive-through penalty, which is that the driver just goes through the pit lane. It's just to slow him down a little bit.
I feel like I've never seen that.
I've never heard of that one.
Yeah.
That's all. Yeah. That's interesting.
I really couldn't find a lot of examples of that one. I actually didn't find a example, but it's like also for minor offenses like curb hopping at chicanes or ignoring yellow flags or cutting corners. But I haven't seen that one in action. I think there was one in 2002 and it was Kimi again, where he just went through.
Nice.
But yeah, but then the one that we usually do see is the stop-go, which is like going into the pit, waiting 10 seconds, and then heading out again. That one's one that is used a lot. And that is for like if they ignore blue flags or unfair blocking and that kind of stuff. And then the most extreme penalties, obviously, adding places to driver's grid position, which is usually caused if they like make changes to the car that are like illegal or that kind of thing. Yeah. And it's usually caused by like the team, not by the driver.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of those ones, it's like you have to do it.
Yeah,
like there's certain things where like you have to get a penalty because otherwise you don't have a car to race.
Yeah. And then there's also obviously drivers like the point system, the penalty point system on their license, and that usually goes hand in hand with whatever kind of penalty that they get throughout the race. And from what I've read, honestly, it just seems very arbitrary. Like it all depends on who's like deciding on that day what like goes and what doesn't.
So ultimately, what happens with the license points for them? Like, is it like real life where at some point you get your license revoked?
Yeah, so there's 12 points for a season, and if you hit those 12 points, you're not allowed to, like, your next race is cancelled. You're not allowed to, like, race your next race. But from what I read, that's, like, the only thing that happens.
Oh, but you're fine for the next one? You're good to go after
It's just
that?
one race?
Yeah, that's what I read.
I thought it was a whole season.
No, okay, so if a driver accumulates 3 reprimands over the course of a season, they can get penalty points. And if a driver accumulates 12 or more penalty points in a 12-month period, they receive a 1 race ban for the next event.
Yeah, so, okay, this is on the Formula One wiki. It says that they get, their points are on there for a year and then they expire. And if the 12-point limit is reached by a driver, super license will be suspended for the following event. So, like, a 1 race ban. And then afterwards, the points are removed.
Yeah.
But it's never happened before.
Yeah.
There's also, like, fees, though. So every penalty point you have to pay money for.
Oh,
and
okay.
they pay
Interesting.
They pay for their license, too. So to get it just all costs money.
But, like, nobody has had that happen to them before.
No.
Because the points have all reset.
Yeah.
Yeah. For example, I think it was 11 points that Nikita Mazepin had on his license before being bumped up to F1, but because points reset, nothing will ever happen to him.
Yeah.
Just one of the many other things that we can be upset about. Weekly, we say no to Mazepin mention.
Yeah.
Yep, we just gotta drop that in every week.
And also, it was funny because I kind of tried to see, like, when this all started, but one of the articles was like, I think, when was that big crash that Grosjean had? Like 2000...
Which one?
There was one crash.
2020?
No. I think it was like 2016, I think, where Grosjean started, like, this major pileup, and, like, he really fucked himself over. And, like, after that, they started having, like, harsher penalties because they were like, we can't have this happen again. But yeah, that's penalties.
Well, then lastly, we'll enter the magical, flappy world of DRS. I always hear... Okay, so the reason I wanted to look into DRS personally is because as a newbie to F1, I always hear them throwing it around in regards to overtaking, and I never knew what it was. But now, I'm here to explain. So,
Good.
DRS is the little flap in the back, and... the FIA introduced it as, like, a thing in 2011 because they were like, Formula One's boring. We want to make it more exciting with more overtakes, so we're going to make overtaking a little bit easier. Put a flap in the back. And so then they did. But it's the only exception to... The FIA has this rule that's like, you can't have any... like, deliberately moving parts on a car that are intended to, like, affect the aerodynamics of it. Except for the little floppy bit at the back. The DRS is fine. It's the only exception to that rule. And so the rules with the DRS is that, like, you can only activate it in, like, the FIA-approved zones on the track where it's, like, DRS approved. So you have to be in a zone, and then in addition to being in the zone, you have to be... like, following the person in front of you by less than 1 second. And I didn't know this, but you can also use it if you're lapping someone. So I thought that was not a thing, but it is a thing, apparently. So if you're lapping someone and you want to get around them, you can totally activate your DRS. And your little flap will go whoop. And then you can go fast.
Nice.
But
it's just a flap.
Yeah.
It's literally just a flap in the back that, like, okay, so, like, it's normally down, and then when you click your little go fast button, it goes up, and then you can get through a lot easier. But it, like, decreases the downforce, so that's why it's not allowed around, like, corners and stuff, because obviously you want more downforce so that you can, like, actually stay on the ground when you're going, like, around a corner very fast. And then the other part of that is that, like, I think it turns off if the driver, obviously, if they turn it off or if they brake. So, like, obviously, if you're about to go into a turn, it'll automatically turn off.
Because I was talking about this when Sam and I were watching one of the races together, and we couldn't figure out if it's activated by the driver or if it's activated by the mechanics that are like that know exactly where the zones are.
So the mechanics, usually you'll hear like the radio of them like telling the driver and being like, oh, you're in a DRS zone. And like, you know, if you can get into 1 second behind them, you can activate DRS.
I also hear them say sometimes, like, they say, like, you have DRS.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if that means that, like, they are eligible and they can press the button.
Or they're in
the
DRS.
engineer has pressed the button.
No. It means, so the drivers have control over it. They have one of the buttons on the steering wheel. It'll also, I didn't know this, but it's kind of neat, is in addition to the engineer, like, telling them, like, oh, you have DRS right now, like, you're eligible for it, a little button will light up. They like track the cars around the course apparently, and so they can tell when they're in a DRS zone on the track, and the like their dashboard thing will light up.
Wow.
And they'll know.
The car technology is honestly so impressive.
I don't know if sorry, go ahead.
This is maybe what you were about to say, but did we say what DRS stood for yet?
I was just about to say, I don't think we said it yet. I've just been referring to it as the flap in the back, but DRS stands for drag reduction system, so it's self-explanatory. It's reducing the drag by lifting up that flap, and then you go real fast. It's kind of like the fin thing on the back of like you see on sports cars sometimes. Like that's what it's akin to. And then like it also just, another fun fact that I didn't know, it can increase your speeds by about like 10 to 12 kilometers an hour. So that's why it makes overtaking so much easier. Is then all of a sudden you're zooming. Like I guess like in the grand scheme of how fast you're going, it's not that much faster, but it's fast enough to pass someone that can't activate their DRS.
I think I'm surprised that we haven't seen it more often where you have one driver activate DRS, pass the driver in front of them, next DRS zone, driver behind them does the same thing, and it's just back and forth. I'm surprised that doesn't happen more often.
I think, and I might be like misremembering this, but I think George and Albon like talked about that during one of their virtual GPs, was just like kind of doing a piggyback thing of like getting faster by every DRS zone, like one of them passing the other, and then eventually, but like, you know, I guess I don't know how much faster that actually makes you, I guess, because, like, no matter what, someone has to be going the normal speed, too.
Yeah.
But would that also maybe be, like a strategy point in terms of if you are, like, say, within 1 second of the person in front of you and they're in first, but you still have, like, 5 laps to go, do you want to wait until you're closer to the end so that they don't have time to overtake you after that?
Exactly. So it's actually a bit of a controversial thing. I didn't realize. I thought everyone would like the DRS because then you can go real fast, and we know drivers like to go fast. But no, apparently some of the drivers, the older drivers mostly, are like kind of upset about it, and they were kind of like, oh, it's like, you know, it basically that it's kind of like cheating and it makes it less exciting for overtakes because someone just has an automatic go fast button. And mainly that I think Vettel expressed like kind of being upset about the fact that like someone can pass you with DRS, but like you can't defend with DRS. Like you can't also go faster to match them. Like it's just like someone's overtaking you and then they're gone. Like
that's fair.
You know.
Yeah, I can see where he's coming from, but also like if you're at the same speed, it's really hard to overtake. Like
yeah. I mean, I agree because, like, I think fans generally like it. I know I like it because I think it's exciting to see two cars going down a straight and then one of them, like, whips out in front. That's awesome. That's dope to see. But, I don't know. I can see how the drivers, especially older ones who have been around since before the DRS days, could probably be upset about it because, like, they're probably just getting past more. Yeah. But also, they're probably doing more passing, so...
I can tell with every time we talk about a change that the FIA made, a lot of the drivers were unhappy about it, especially like with the halo, which I think now is a less controversial thing since it's done so much good. But the drivers do not like change, and the FIA is like, we're just gonna change things because we feel like it. So sometimes FIA makes changes that I'm just like, why? I think the biggest one of all for me was when they had to use the same tires for an entire
Yeah, that one.
Like,
Michelin. Nah, absolutely not.
Aren't they supposed to be about safety? Like, I can understand implementing certain changes because it makes it more exciting, like DRS. But also, like, what?
The same
like,
tire
have some safety in
for
mind.
a whole race?
Yeah.
Not safe.
Don't know about it. Oh yeah, that's the other thing with DRS is that on any like given track or like during any given race, they're allowed to just change the rules for DRS and like where the activation zones are. Or I think there was one race, I think it was a Canadian GP a few years ago. It was really rainy and they just said no DRS at all. So don't do it. And so FIA reserves the right to revoke DRS from the drivers at a moment's notice.
Is there like how do they decide where DRS zone is? Is it just usually straights? Like what are the prerequisites?
It's safest on the straights, so most tracks are going to have DRS zones on straights. It's really just up to how the FIA is feeling, where they want to put them.
Is there a limit?
They usually do 2. I don't think I've seen more than 2 though.
Yeah, it's usually 2 or 3. I think I've seen 3 a few times.
Yeah.
But yeah, they'll just kind of pick like a random straight on the track and be like, that's it, that's your zone.
That's your overtake zone.
But, I guess it doesn't affect too much because, like, again, most of the overtakes happen around curves and, like, chicanes in general.
Yeah.
At least, like, the coolest ones do. And then, you very rarely get the, like, 2 cars zoom in and then one pulls out and uses DRS. I don't think I've seen very much of that.
Well, you
personally.
have, 2 Red Bulls zoom in.
Yeah.
Trying to do it and then crashing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, that's the gist of DRS, drag reduction system.
Fascinating.
That's it.
The flap.
Yeah.
Amazing.
The flappy bit.
For a technical name.
I guess that pretty much does it for our episode here on Overtakes. Thank you so much for listening. Feel free to follow us on our social medias. We are at BoxBoxBox Podcast on TikTok and Instagram, and at BoxBoxBoxPod on Twitter. Thank you so much for listening. Ciao.
Adios.
Peace.